Hey guys, Brendan from TAT here. Today I just want to run through from start to finish doing some programming on this GM Holden Commodore. Okay, so we're starting to get access as the right to repair is not far off, right? So a lot of guys have been doing calibration updates for a while, but it means a lot more of you are going to have to get into it, whether you like it or not really. Now, if it's something you're not interested in at all, there's some tooling out there where you can remotely have people log in and basically do it for you. But for something like GM, there's a couple of pitfalls that if you haven't done it before, it's very good to have someone show you. So I'm going to do a calibration update on this Holden Commodore. I don't have the year model, sorry, but I'll run through and I'll show you, why I'm doing it, where I can go check why I'm doing it. It's a very nice service that GM offers, and then we'll go through and we'll use the GM site to go through and actually do it. So I'm going to jump onto the laptop now. We don't need to worry about what's connected on the car yet. So as always, I'm going to start at the TAT site because it's a nice easy way to have all of our links together. So I go to OEM info resource. Now if I go to that lightning bolt, just like all the others, it's going to take me directly to the manufacturer site. But if I click into it, there's various other parts that I can go to, and in this case I'm going to want to use one specifically. So if I come down here to check calibration files, now this is going to take us to GM service where we can enter in our VIN and we can see what the calibration files are. Now the easiest way for me to get the VIN is probably going to be through Queensland Rego, so I'm going to do that down here. Just go grab the Rego. 348 ZHP. So it's 2011 Commodore. Don't believe this one's SIDI. That's my VIN. Just going to take a look at those last numbers and go confirm that on the vehicle itself. One moment. Because obviously a stuff up at this point, we could be in a bit of bother. So that looks good. The last 8 are correct. Okay, so if I enter that into this calibration checker, we select Holden, engine control module, because that's what we're focusing on at the moment. This one has oil consumption issues, and I know that around this era, many of these alloy techs, there is an update for it. So I'm just going through, selecting all the bits that apply to this vehicle. Off the tyre placard in the door jamb here, that's the tyres on this one. Don't want to throw the speedo out or anything if we get the wrong calibration. Now, Holden, nice enough, they show us that there's these, this is why the software's changed. Sometimes you'll find the calibration number is different, but it doesn't tell you why. So in this case, it tells you why. So there's a bit of a summary here that you can read through. If you're getting CAT codes on these alloy techs, there are some that have a software update that can apply to it. And this high oil consumption one is what we're looking at. So mainly this engine system control module calibration number. This is the software number, if you like. We put a scan tool in there and we go into even just OBD, so any generic scan tool, and it's usually mode 1, so $01. I'll do a screen recording of that and add it in after the fact for you to see how we can compare what software is in this vehicle versus what software we're going to put in. So we want to make sure that this number, this is the latest that is on the GM server. If that's not what's in our vehicle, then we don't have the latest calibration in the vehicle. So we need to do the update if we want to get to it. So in this one's case, there is some software available for it, so we can go through and do the procedure. Now that was all free, right? So that's very nice to be able to get that kind of access, and I appreciate GM giving that to us. So how do we go about doing the actual programming? Well, we're back at TAT, and you can run through all of your pricing and things like that here just to have a bit of a look through at what to expect. But if I go to the GM site, that's not actually, okay, that's actually nice how it does that, but I want to go to the site to show you the whole thing. So we should have one here that's going to be getting us through to the TIS site. I'm going to go to this one because I can see that that's AC Delco subscriptions is where you want to get to, right? So this is your main page. We can go through, we can buy all kinds of things. So we can get the vehicle programming software. We can do not remote, but we can basically use our JBox as a GM scan tool if we were to purchase this one, right down through to service information. So here's where you'd come if you wanted to purchase some service information to get some code setting criteria, that kind of thing. Obviously you need to make sure you've got a login. So if you haven't registered for the AC Delco GM site, you'll need to go through the don't have an account, sign up. If you have issues there, you need to take it up with the website themselves to see what's going on there. I'll enter mine in. Now you notice that I'm actually in Internet Explorer at the moment because I know that I have issues if I try and do programming with a hold, and if I use Chrome, it won't open the application for me. I believe Microsoft Edge is the same, so I'm using, I may be able to grab you the version of it. Just Internet Explorer. Actually, once I'm in Internet Explorer, that'll be the best place to find the version. I should be able to come up here. Right, so that gives you the version of Internet Explorer that I'm using, I suppose. Microsoft Windows, now that's my Windows version, so I don't know how to tell you, but hopefully you'll get something from that to see roughly what I'm doing with it. Okay, so you've just logged in. Yours won't look like this here because you haven't done programming before, right? So you need to purchase a subscription. So we need to go vehicle programming software. We select. In this case, you're probably going to want to do one vehicle. It's going to cost you $55 plus GST, I believe. Just like any other online shopping, you add it to cart, go to checkout, and happy days. I did notice a thing up here, so purchasing issues with Internet Explorer. Users may not be able to purchase through Internet Explorer, so welcome to the fun of doing vehicle calibration updates. I actually went out, had to use Chrome so I could do the purchase, then I have to go back, use Internet Explorer so I can do the programming. That's the kind of stuff that happens. You'll run into other things like Mazda and Ford don't want to work on the same laptop, all kinds of fun stuff like that. So I've gone through, I've already done the purchase just to save us a bit of time. It's all just click, click, click. You'll see that we now have some active vehicle programming software. So those are cars I've previously done, and one spot that's available because that's one that I've purchased that doesn't have a VIN assigned to it. So we go into view. Those are all the previous cars that I've had. The way that this works, so rather than other manufacturers where you purchase a amount of time, say 24 hours where you could do plenty of cars, GM do it where you purchase one subscription and it then attaches to that VIN. And I believe you're allowed to reprogram as many times under that subscription to that VIN as there are modules in the car. So let's say there were 10 modules in this car. I could reprogram the ECU 10 different times if I wanted, or I could do every module in the car once. So it's a different model to some of the other manufacturers that allow you a time limit. So I'm going to go to add VIN at this point. Now this is another place where you may run into issues. So we go to OK, and then you're going to want to go to Service Programming System, or SPS, and that's going to start to open up an app when we click that. Now often if you click that, if you're in Chrome, again, it doesn't work for me. It'll just download this little widget that doesn't go anywhere. What this is trying to do is open what's called a Java application. So it's important to have the right version of Java installed on your computer. Now, if we have a quick look back, I had it brought up over here. When you read through the help document that GM gives you this supported and not supported. So Java 32-bit is supported, whereas 64-bit Java is not supported. So this laptop, like most modern laptops, came with 64-bit Java on it, and it was not able to open that application. Think of it that it doesn't have the right language to run the program. So I had to go, and I just Googled 32-bit Java install, and I had to go to this one here. So make sure you install 32-bit Java so that we can get that app working, particularly if you get to this point, you press Start SPS and nothing happens. So we're going to open up the application now. Keep going through all your runs. This J2534 wrapper, I do see on this, anyone who has a DrewTech J-Box, and I'll get you to come in just so this is probably a good point to show you what I'm using. So I'm using a Cardac 3 at this point from DrewTech, just an OBD into the car and then a USB up to the vehicle. You could use various other J-Boxes, you know, I haven't used the Autel one that came with the Ultra, but I reckon it'd probably be able to do the job. Cardac is kind of the grandfathers of J-Boxes, so you'll find if you buy manufacturer ones, often they're going to be a DrewTech J2534 box, just rebadged with manufacturer stuff on it. So if you want to be you know, confident going forward that you've got something that's going to be reliable, I would recommend DrewTech. I've already got a maintainer on the vehicle, so we're just at positive and negative. This little guy down here, GM is pretty you know, tolerant, so at the moment I've just got it set to about 13.4 volts. And you can see sitting here doing pretty much nothing. It's already drawing about 20 amps or so. So during that programming, if it wanted to turn on the fans or anything like that and start to draw a bit more, we're safe that we're not going to have the battery drop down. That 20 amps is just because the lights are on, as the Commodores do all the time. So heading back to the car now, our Java, we're talking about that wrapper. So I was heading back out here and I was going to show you that J2534 toolbox, which is a great tool that comes with any of the Cardac or DrewTech, whatever you want to call it, J-boxes. So you go in there and it gives you basically similar to what I'm doing now. It gives you the rundown of how to go about doing it. And one of the things in there does say to install that wrapper. Now I've had that pop up to me almost every time I do it. I go to install and it just doesn't install. So I'm not going to waste the time here, but it still works for me, no problem. Okay, so we're in the app now. So at this point, you know, I'd want to be connected to the car. So I've got the OBD in, I've got the USB in. We choose that we're using a J2534 tool and we want to reprogram the ECU. Obviously, if we were replacing it with a new one, there'd be a different procedure we'd go down, but we're just reprogramming. Go through this, so you know, it's important to read things. So turn the ignition off, the battery's fully charged, turn the ignition on and the engine off. Well, that's not what I wanted. So there goes the ignition on, and everything's switched on and ready to go, connected up. Okay, so important not to go to Chevrolet Holden. That caught me out early on. You actually want to go to Holden itself. Chevrolet Holden's not going to have the right vehicles there. Ours was a 2010, I believe. I'm just going to double check that again. Sorry, 2011. So I'm going to go and find the actual plate now, just to make sure that we are 100%. Yep, cool. So it's a 7th of 11. Righto, so we actually want the 2011 passenger car. This is just a VE Commodore. Not reading the VIN from the device, okay. Sometimes you can have this when you have to go back or forward a year. So I've just confirmed that the ignition's definitely on. We'll try again. Okay guys, so I took a bit of a cut so I could work out what my issue was, because you're probably going to run into it yourself. What my issue was, this is the first time that I've actually done it on this laptop. I've always used a different laptop. So being the first time, I did have to install that J253 wrapper that came up and we skipped through. So I tried to install that. It failed, like I say, it commonly does. So after a bit of trial and error, I found to install that wrapper, you have to start Internet Explorer in administrator mode. So to do that, easiest way, for instance, if it's down here, we should be able to right click and we can go run as administrator. So it wouldn't install unless I was opening it as an administrator. So these are the kind of quirks that you fall into, and I was struggling to actually get it to work myself on this new laptop. So if we go back in now, it's installed that wrapper, it restarted, and I've had to get back in, log back in, and get back to this point where we're struggling. So we're gonna, again, select our tool, reprogram ECU, go through the motions, so turn ignition off, because at the moment it's on. The battery is charged, and I still have my charger on it, and we turn the ignition on. So all going well this time, since we've installed that wrapper to make the app work properly. Hopefully we'll be able to communicate with the car. Okay, so this is looking better. So it's coming up and it's going to ask us which Jade box we want to use. If this is where you were using something different like an Autel or whatnot, you would hope that it comes up in this list because we need to select it. So in this case, I'm selecting my CarDAC Plus 3. We go to continue. Some warning lights going on in the car now. I've got a brake warning, stability control, those kinds of things. That's absolutely fine. We're definitely going to want to go and confirm this VIN. So I'm just going to apply it to memory as well as I can and go take another look. Yep, that looks good to me. So we've got the correct VIN and it's pulled that from the vehicle. Obviously this is where, if you had an ECU that someone's installed and they haven't somehow married it correctly, that you could have discrepancies. Now we want to do the engine control module. Normal, I've never had to do VCI, so always with normal. Okay, confirm that our details are correct. So this is an auto, or that is off the tyre placard inside the door there. And we're going to go through and do this update here. Now it is going to update to the latest software, so it's going to take care of both that oil consumption and the catalytic converter codes that these can set as far as whatever it's going to do in the software to improve that. You'll also notice it mentions some helping with knocking and pinging. So it goes through and it tells us our current software. We can go to next, and this is where you may want to record it or whatnot. I already have. Now, providing you've got a steady internet connection, it's going to download it. It's already downloaded it, and now it's going to push it into the vehicle. So estimated time remaining, coming down quickly. It's going quite quickly. Okay, so all finished. So you can record this if you want, the warranty claim codes, those kinds of things, in case you have any issues. Now it says cycle the ignition, clear the trouble codes, as you always will. So we're going to cycle the ignition. I'm going to take my battery maintainer off and we'll just make sure that the thing starts. So all going good. We've got no warnings. If we had a check engine light or something like that, or another system doing odd things, it's not uncommon. That brings us to the end of that's all we need to do with that. But as I said, we do want to clear codes. So I'll show you this while we're here, the toolbox that you get with the CarDAC, because it's quite helpful. And it doubles as an OBD scan tool, so we can clear codes in the ECM at least with this. Have to be connected to the computer to the CarDAC, so you can't have that USB out and get into this. It doesn't have to be in an OBD port, but you do have to have the CarDAC in the USB before it'll let you in. So if we go to diagnostics, this is just an OBD code reader essentially. The ignition is on. No DTC, so that's fine. And we can go to vehicle information, and this is going to be our updated software calibration numbers now that I can compare to the previous ones. We could print that out for the customer, just to show that something has changed as well. So there we go. I'll print screen those and keep them, but to throw you through some of these other bits, so if you were having issues, if I didn't get to the bottom of that wrapper install, this is the kind of place that you would go to. And as I said, there's a lot of information in here that CarDAC give you, and this is all just relating to GM, right? You can click into all of these, so it's like a frequently asked questions place, all this kinds of stuff, and you can do it for all the manufacturers. So a super helpful piece of software that you get when you buy the Cardac as well, because as you see, I got caught up there just because I had a laptop that I hadn't used before, so it took me probably, I would say, 20 times as long to get the GM app working as it did to actually get the pushing the software into the vehicle. Is super simple once you've got the laptop set up. So it is something that you might want to consider before the fact. When you've got a car coming in, you may want to get it all set up so that you're not there on the day wasting time doing these kinds of things, getting the app working. So I hope that shows you, it's not a difficult process. It's once we get the bits in place that we need for legislation so that we can have access to these kinds of things, which some manufacturers have already got nice systems set out. Pay a little bit of money, put the new calibration files in there, take care of the problem. A particular shout out to GM here for having that ability to look up what the latest cal file is, tell you what it's actually fixing, and that's a free service. I think that should be on all of them. It's not fair to have to go in, pay, see if there's something, no, get back out. So really good service there from Holden, and hopefully this will help you through if you get stuck trying to update any GM software. Thanks guys.